thank you, all of you who are joining me in how to support your child through one of the most difficult times of their lives. And yes, we're going to make it also the best thing that's happened to them. Awesome. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of what is most important. Myself as a parent, I have a background in psychology, in biomechanics. I've been a teacher. I've been working with kids for over 3 decades. And I still, every single day, worry that I'm going to mess up my 13-year-old. Do any of you all relate to this? At the end of the day, if I were able to promise you these 3 things, that when your child turns 18, that they would be on a path to success, tell me if you would feel that angst that we feel right now as a parent. Okay, I can take a deep breath. I did a good job. Your kid, when they turned 18, they were set up to be successful in life. If they were a good person and they now know what it is to be a good person, and if they were happy and they knew how to find true happiness. Is there anything else that you parents out there would want for your kids other than your kid being happy, successful in life, and being a good person? Let's start with that roadmap. All right, Jeff, you're going to help my kid be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. Yes, that is my goal today. So thank you, all of you who are joining me in how to support your child through one of the most difficult times of their lives. And yes, we're going to make it also the best thing that's happened to them. So imagine that you're in Chicago. You're trying to navigate downtown and you don't know where you're going. It would be beneficial to have a map, right? Are we all, give me those thumbs up? Yeah, I would definitely want a map. Yeah, thank you. I want a map. I'm from Chicago. I still want a map. I get on my phone. I still want a map when I go back home. I'm in San Francisco now, but when I go back home, I want a map. But what would happen? How would you feel if what you got instead of a map of downtown Chicago, you got a map of Detroit? Would anyone out there be as frustrated as I would be? I would even feel overwhelmed. To be honest, I'd probably be a little angry. You're going to learn this later. I would probably flip my lid. The reason I'm bringing this up is that oftentimes what we're doing as parents, especially with our kids who have a mental block, the reason this is often so difficult for us is that we're using the wrong roadmap. We think the issue is that our child lost their tumbling. That's why there's so much anger and sadness and overwhelmed. And Jeff, help us with that. Or they think, oh, my kid is struggling to get their tumbling back. They were throwing it yesterday and now they're not throwing it and they're upset. And Jeff, help us, because it is 2 weeks before their first competition and we have got to get our back handspring back or they're going to move her in the routine. And our goal, what we really want in life, starts shifting. It might even be things like, my daughter was a flyer and now she's a base and oh my goodness, this is just awful. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to her. My son had a dream team and they didn't make it. Those are often what we think are the issues. But let's have a little conversation if any of you are open to it. Is your daughter or son losing their tumbling? Is that going to make them less successful in life? Are they not going to get the career they want? Are they not going to get into the college they want? Are they not going to get married to whom they want because they didn't get their tumbling? No.
No.
All right. Does them not getting their tumbling make them a bad person? Think of what we talked about earlier. Hey, Jeff, I want my kid to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. That about sums up what I want for my kids. Those are your goals as a parent. Those are your roadmap of downtown Chicago. If you only focus on that roadmap and every choice that's in front of you as a parent focuses on, is this going to help my kid be more successful in life, be a good person, to be happy? That is the roadmap that will cause you and your child to be able to accomplish and get through anything. Now, here's the sticky one. Does your child not throwing their tumbling cause them to not be happy? You're right. Your child not throwing their tumbling makes them really upset. Your child not making the team they want makes them really upset. Your child going from a flyer to a base makes them really upset. Your child throwing their tumbling and then losing it again makes them really upset. And that is why we as parents get so upset and emotional about our child going through a mental block. But let me ask you this question. Will your child be happier in life if they get their tumbling back?
They may be happy in the moment, but that doesn't mean they'll be happy continuously.
I heard somebody going in at the same time you were, and they were like, oh, I'll back up. Both of you said, yes, in the moment, but we all know that happiness is super temporary. It is not like I get my tumbling back as an athlete and now I'm happy most or all the time. The reality is the same things outside of cheer, outside of tumbling are still going to make them upset. But this is what often happens, or which is misunderstood inside the mind of an athlete with a block. They think all of their unhappiness in life is coming from the fact that they're not tumbling. Think of how loaded that is. If this one thing, if I truly believe this is what a lot of, if I truly believe me not throwing my back tuck is why I'm not happy in life right now. Imagine how much implicit pressure an athlete is feeling every time they go to throw that tumbling skill. That's intense, right? What we're going to talk about tonight is how that temporary happiness will not change the outcome over here when they turn 18 and you're sending them off. They're getting their tumbling or not will not change this. It will not change that trajectory, but the way in which they navigate this mental block will. Let me say that again, maybe in another way. The way in which they react or respond to their mental block will absolutely influence how happy they are in life, successful, probably not being a good person, but those first two. So I'm not saying anything other than we can use this setback to be a setup for your child to be successful later in life. I had an athlete that I worked with for probably 8 years ago. She had and was working layouts, but she had her standing tuck. She had her round up back handspring tuck, but it was something about her layout she started getting sticky on. And she started to lose her confidence. And she lost that layout that she was working on. She then lost her round off back handspring tuck. Then she lost her back handsprings, all the way to her back walkover. Now, this is a kid who didn't have a mental block on her layout. We're going to talk about what that means to have a mental block, but she definitely had it on these three things. It was at that time her mom reached out and was like, Jeff, my daughter, she had all these skills. Now she lost it. And we are beside, like, it is affecting our whole family. Like, we're not giving our son the attention he needs because of this. She is always upset and she's always crying. So we're trying to get her to quit cheer and she won't quit cheer. And she says she loves it, but she won't change the way she's responding. We don't know what to do. Help. And in fact, she won't talk to you. So would you be okay if we just did mental block sessions with my husband and I? And that's how I got in with this family. Slowly but surely, their child said, "You're acting weird, Mom. Dad, you're using weird language. What's going on?" And they finally told her, "We've been talking to this guy who's been helping us be able to navigate your fear." And she's like, "Well, I want to talk to him." So long story short, she got her tumbling back to her back tuck. 2 months later, after she graduated from my program, 2 months later, I get a call. "Jeff, she's blocking again." I was like, "All right." And the mom was like, "Jeff, how are you?" Like, what do you mean, all right? Like, she's blocking again. That means she's like fallen from the cliff. And I was like, "No way. This is amazing. I love that you called me and asked for help again." She's not blocking on her back walkover. She still can throw her standing back handspring, but it was multiple back handsprings and her running tumbling. I was like, wait, you called me at a perfect time, because your daughter still has tools that we used before. Let's just clear them out. It's kind of like going to the dentist, right? You have to go every 6 months, no matter how great you take care of your teeth. It's a checkup. This is just a checkup. Let's go. 2 months later, kid gets out of the block. Another month later, what did I get? I got a message. Their daughter is now throwing standing fulls and running fulls. A lot of you are like, "Oh, that's great. Let's sign up." Don't you worry. Don't you worry, mama bears out there. She ended up losing all that tumbling just a few months later. Yeah, right? So let's go back to what we're talking about. Are we functioning in our family with a roadmap of downtown Chicago? We want our kids to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. Or do we often start, while we're navigating downtown Chicago, looking at our map of Detroit? Why is my kid not happy? Because we're looking at the wrong roadmap. And as the mom and dad that I was working with were starting to able to change the roadmap, and everything was framed on, how are you responding to this level of fear? That is what changed and helped this girl get out of her mental block. But as I told you, that was 8 years ago. We haven't talked, meaning we haven't worked together on a consistent basis for 8 years. It's every so often I'll get a call, we'll do a little catch-up session, but that was the path to help their daughter get over a mental block. It doesn't always look the way we want. But if you as parents can start help to navigate with the roadmap of, here are our goals, here's what we really want. Your true happiness is going to come from how you respond to this failure. You being successful in life is going to be learned by, when I struggle, mental block, how am I going to respond? Oh, I didn't throw it. What am I going to do next? I stay calm. I ask for help, or I use a strategy. That is what's going to help your child be successful in life. What is fear and what is a mental block? So fear is literally just the concern that you're unsafe, that you're not going to be able to do something successfully. We're watching this athlete who is very clearly afraid. You can see in watching this back, if you're like me, you actually feel it when you watch her. Like, she's stomping her feet. She's trying to go. She's convincing herself, you got it, I'm safe. Fingers moving. Again, it's like a dog trying to find the right spot on the couch. Deep breath, pumping themselves up. I mean, they're standing there for a really long time, right? And then eventually they throw it. Let's talk about why this is a mental block and the difference between just fear and a mental block. A mental block must have these 4 elements. The athlete has near perfect technique. When I say near perfect technique, what am I talking about? Arms are straight by their ears, their shoulders and armpits are open, their legs are straight, they're together. Your coaches would say, this is excellent. There is nothing technically wrong with this back handspring. That's the first thing. You can't have a mental block on a skill that your arms are bent, your legs are apart or separated. Now, that doesn't mean turn me off. If you realize my daughter, my son does not have excellent technique and I signed this up for this because I thought they had a mental block and they don't click out. Because the reality is that your child is experiencing something really, really deep. All of your kids are going through something really, really emotional. And all the techniques and all the tips we're going to talk about, all the science is going to help your kid, regardless of it being a true mental block or not. So number one, excellent technique. Number two, they performed this skill in front of many different people. This child has done it many different times, that I'm talking hundreds, and this child has done it in multiple venues. All four of those things must occur for it to be a mental block.
So can I ask a question? Because that's new to me with this
Yeah.
performing many times and having lots of venues, right? So,
Yep.
but what if they performed it, for like a month or two, probably in the same gym, but then all of a sudden they just stop? Like to me, I thought that was a mental block.
Great question. I love it. I would not consider that a mental block. Let me explain why. In stages of learning, it is normal, whether it's a physical skill, stages of learning, or a mental skill, like math, that there are times where you either forget what to do, how to do it, or you start slipping in terms of confidence. This is normal. If you don't own a skill, and I mean owning a skill is like excellent technique and form, that's why we have all of these things, that's going to be owning it. What you're referring to is an athlete who's renting a skill. Make sure you hear this. That doesn't mean that your daughter or any other child, if they fit this, they were throwing it for a month, Jeff. We just haven't competed. So you're telling me I can't call it a mental block? Take a deep breath and realize that your child is just going through the normal stages of learning. This is a good thing. You're getting ahead of a potential mental block. You're going to learn tonight all the things necessary to stop the habit that I bet a lot of these parents that are listening are like, my kid's been going through this for 3 years. Where your child is right now is probably where most of these parents who are with us tonight were 3 years ago. That first time their child was trying a skill that they've been doing for a long time and they don't throw it, and now they're really mad and disappointed. You do that a lot over and over and over again. We'll talk about this in terms of habits. That's what leads to a mental block. That frustration of, I was able to do it, why can't I do it now? You're learning. That's a part of learning. Really quick, I do a lot of self-explanation here. Though I never personally as an athlete ever had a mental block as a cheerleader or a gymnast, you better believe I struggled in other areas. I struggled a lot in math. I actually enjoyed math, but I would sit in class, learn it, do it, and I'm getting all the problems right. What happens when I go home? I don't remember anything. I'm like, what? Who did this math assignment? Eventually, you teach yourself, or you go in after school and your teacher explains it again and you refresh in your brain. This is learning, right? Dust it off. But then what happens a month later when you have a test and you haven't done that math equation? You forgot it. You got to learn it again. That's normal stages of physical and mental skills. All right. Let's talk a little bit more now on the science behind mental blocks. So first, I want to talk to you about what are the 3 most important parts of the brain. So if you're like me and a little science averse, have no fear. I'm going to explain this in very simple terms, and we're only going to stick to 3 parts of the brain. Next, we're going to talk about the role of the amygdala and why it's so important to understand when it comes to mental blocks. Next, we're going to talk about how habits can either hurt an athlete or can actually help them. And finally, we're going to talk about what is the temperament, or who is most susceptible to a mental block. So the three most important parts or vital components of the brain to know. The first part is the amygdala, known as the little brain. So if you feel comfortable, this is from Dr. Daniel Siegel. It's the hand model. It's going to help explain what we're talking about. Take your thumb, wrap it in your palm, and then take your four fingers and roll it over. This right here is your amygdala. It's deep inside your brain. It's a little small almond structure. And its job is very simple: to keep us safe. How does it do this? It keeps us safe by fighting danger, running away from danger, or freezing and waiting until danger leaves. So literally fighting like a lion, running away like a zebra, or freezing like a turtle. This is the key to understanding a mental block, because this is where a mental block occurs. It's that pattern with the amygdala. What ends up happening is that an athlete, most of the time, they go to throw a skill and something happens, whether it be they touch down on their tumbling, they get hurt, they get yelled at from a coach, they don't do what they expected to do at any of those things. And then what comes after is a big emotion or a big situation. To help explain this, I talked to earlier, I live in San Francisco, so I think of waves. I think of me going to Ocean Beach, and I think of the little waves that come into the beach. Waves come in two phases. So this little wave is not a big deal. That's not the one we need to worry about when we're on the beach. It's that second wave, that really huge, big wave. That's the dangerous one. What often happens inside the mind of an athlete who has a mental block is they see the first wave as the problem. The first wave is the freeze or turtle response we talked about. I didn't go. So really quick, I'm getting ready to go. I'm trying to throw my standing back handspring and I didn't throw it. I froze. That athlete thinks the freeze is the problem. Or what happens to some of our kids, they throw it and they touch down, or it didn't feel right and their legs look gross. And what comes after that same situation is the actual problem, the second wave, their reaction to the freeze or their reaction to poor technique. That is where mental blocks come from. It's that amygdala response, which is not the problem, it's the reaction. So let's talk a little bit about evolution. Our amygdala was necessary for our ancestors to stay alive. We are descendants from scared people. It was what kept our ancestors alive. It was necessary to be strong and really the main driver to most of the decisions that were made thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago. Making sure that we didn't freeze to death, getting in caves, making fire, staying away from berries, and running away from the saber-toothed tigers. So the amygdala is not the enemy. When your child blocks or when your child experiences a freeze, that is a biological, evolutionarily beneficial response. The problem is how they react to that response. That's the cycle that starts our mental block. So what ends up happening in those examples I gave, the touchdown or the not going, what ends up getting burned in the amygdala is when I don't go, bad things happen. So many of you might be like, well, so then they're going to go, right? No, the amygdala is not going to decipher that. The amygdala doesn't process good, bad. The amygdala only reacts. It's a reacting part of our brain. When a situation is pressure filled, it's going to fight, run away, or freeze. So all of you parents out there who who are like, well, when I promised my child a new iPhone, they were able to throw their back handspring. So that must mean they don't care enough. Your child fought like a lion to throw that back handspring or that back tuck for the iPhone. That's all that means. And in fact, what we just did was reinforce or stamp in our kids' brain, I just need to stay here and do it over and over and over again. Or I need to just be in tears for me to finally throw it. And so what they end up doing, the habit they start burning in their brain is, those are the only times I can throw my back handspring. The problem with that is they're teaching or reinforcing their amygdala to freeze them more likely in the future. Does anyone have any questions about the amygdala and kind of the habit that's occurring inside the mind of an athlete who has fear?
So me bribing my child with Lulus and other things, that's hurting her more than it's helping, correct?
100%, unequivocally, yes.
Is there ways to reverse that? Or have I just ruined it?
You know what, Courtney, I, along with every other parent in here, probably want to give you a hug right now. We've all been in that, like, whoa, I've messed up, and we get that flood of shame. In case you are feeling that, I want you, one, to take a deep breath and hear from an expert on mental blocks. You're okay. What you did
Okay,
was
good.
not helpful, but you're not a bad parent. You didn't do it maliciously. You were doing the best you could with the knowledge you had at that point in time. Forgive yourself. But I'm about to explain to you how that is unhelpful, and I'm going to hope you make a different choice next time. So why is bribing our kid unhelpful? Very simply, you're creating a pressure-filled situation. And then when they're able to do it in that really high pressure-filled situation, they then have the expectation implicitly within themselves that they have to be able to do it again. They were doing it under duress, bad stress, overwhelming stress. We don't want to reinforce that. Your question to me was, how do I reverse that? There are many different ways to help reverse it. I am a big fan of, as a parent, of growth mindset. I mean, I'm really a big fan of it everywhere in life. Growth mindset is the idea that you can make mistakes and you learn from them. And so I like to, when I mess up, bring it up to my kid. I love being able to explain to my daughter, Haley, hey, I messed up. I'm not perfect, and I apologize. I'm so sorry. Think of what that does to a child. Almost all children at a point in time think you all walk on water, that there's nothing you do wrong. Your kids may be out of that stage now, but in general, our kids think we're infallible. They think we are amazing. So if we can break or demystify that we have to be perfect, hey, in our house, we make mistakes. And you know what? Here's my mistake. That is my number one solution for these situations. How do I reverse this, Jeff? You apologize for it, use a growth mindset, and find other ways to help change your choices. Let's go back to the metaphor earlier. You have a roadmap of Chicago, or you want to get to downtown Chicago. I want my kid to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. But when you bribe your kid, you're giving yourself a map of Detroit. Not that Detroit's a bad city, but when you're trying to get somewhere in Chicago, getting a map of Detroit is not going to help. You bribing your kid is not going to make her more successful in life. In fact, most research would say the opposite. It's not going to help her be a better person. And yes, it will help her be happy temporarily, but actually it's going to cause more pain later because she's going to think she should be able to throw her tumbling. Second part of our brain that I want you all to know is called our prefrontal cortex. I talked about Dr. Daniel Siegel and his hand model. Here's our amygdala. Our prefrontal cortex is right here. It's the front of our brain. And its job is to make good decisions. If you are somebody who likes to be fancy, this is the executive functioning part of our brain. It's where our backup plans come from. It's where we experience bounce back, meaning if something doesn't work out for us, we find another way to do it. It's also like the flexibility part of our brain. One of the disappointing parts about this, yeah, it's not fully formed, meaning it doesn't have as many connections. It can't be as strong as it possibly can until we're 25. So all of your kids' prefrontal cortex, the good decision maker, it's under construction. That doesn't mean you can't influence it and strengthen it. It's really just to keep it in the back of your brain why your kid keeps making that stupid choice because their brain's still under construction. Yeah, but my kid who's 26, why do they make stupid choices? Nah, because they're trying to make stupid choices. Kidding. But in general, it's important to remember this good decision part of our brain, the one that's going to help most of your kids be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. This is what I want you all to focus the most on. When the triad, when the parent, coach, and athlete are all three aligned, when they all are trying to navigate downtown Chicago with a map of downtown Chicago, you're going to see amazing things happen. That doesn't mean you're not going to see a mental block, but it's going to happen a whole lot less, and it's not going to happen for as long, because we're going to realize quickly, oh, my influence that's negative is this, and I'm going to shift it. And I feel no guilt. I'm just going to make a better choice. Oh, as an athlete, I realize I'm being perfectionistic, and that's harming me. It's causing me that big wave. I'm reacting really negative to the fact that I've been working on my back handspring for 2 months. It's the coach being like, oh, I realize I'm putting a lot of explicit pressure on them by telling them they're the most talented athlete in the gym. You're putting pressure on your athlete. So I'm going to make a different choice. When that triad is all aligned, great things happen. The third part of our brain is our cortex, or our neocortex. Now, it's not just that part. It's really the whole outside layer. It's the braided part of our brain. It does a lot, but its main job is to think and process. When it comes to mental blocks, the part that I want you to know is that your cortex is where athletes start overthinking. It's where worry comes from, and rumination. It's all of those thoughts. It's all of the what ifs that your kids are going through. The cortex is where your athletes or your children start to think about how they're not tumbling, and maybe they're disappointing themselves or other people. And the more our cortex does that, the more our cortex is thinking about all the bad or what ifs, our brain is learning and is memorizing habits. Let's talk really quick about 3 facts that have to do with the amygdala. So the first fact that I want you to know is that its job is to keep us safe. Parents, we just talked about this: lion, zebra, and turtle. Second fact about our amygdala that I want you to know is that it stores emotional memories. Okay, let's think about that. So our amygdala, our little brain, not only does it keep us safe by fighting like a lion, running away like a zebra, or freezing like a turtle, it memorizes really emotional things, both positive and negative. Let that sink in. So why does Jeff smell pine and immediately feel giddy and good? Because the way that the smell of pine works in my brain is that it triggers the memory for me in my amygdala of Christmas. And I have so many stored positive emotional memories of Christmas that all it takes is the smell of pine and I feel joy. Yes, I do own a pine-scented candle right here at my desk for that very reason. I love pine. Love it. The disappointing part about this is that our amygdala stores negative emotional memories as well. I talked about the smell. This could happen through all of our senses: smell, taste, touch, sight, all of them can trigger positive and negative emotional memories. So let's think of athletes. We talked about that little wave, big wave. I'm trying to throw my standing tuck, right? And I don't throw it, little wave. Amygdala, it flips its lip. It's like, I don't feel safe. No, I hate this. Why can Jenny do it and I can't do it? Why have I been working on this for so long? What is wrong with me? I just threw it yesterday. What kind of emotional memory is that athlete pounding or stamping in their brain, parents? A negative emotional memory. Now let's add on to that. How many times your athlete, your child, has gone to the gym and has stamped a very deep emotional memory? Those are the times where they come out sobbing. I'm not talking about like just sobbing. Or some your kids, they may come out screaming. That's their fight, flight, freeze response. Not everybody's a crier. Some people scream and yell. Some athletes go internal and they just shut down. That's me. All of these will still store negative emotional memories. So think about it like a snowball going down a hill and picking up more and more snow. The more negative emotional memories your child has when it comes to tumbling, the more their amygdala is no longer going to number 3. Trust them when they go into the gym. So the third fact is when you have a mental block, it means that your amygdala doesn't trust you. So fact number 1, it keeps us safe by fight, flight, or freeze. Fact number 2, it stores positive and negative emotional memories. Fact number 3, when your child has a mental block, it means their amygdala no longer trusts them. So is your goal as a parent a map of Detroit, which is to throw their back handspring, or is your reaction going to be a map of Chicago, which is help my child get their amygdala to trust them again? Help my child's prefrontal cortex, their medium brain, start to not react so intensely. That doesn't mean to not acknowledge their feelings or emotions, because that is also going to be unhelpful. It's about helping your kids better understand what's happening. All right, at this point, I would have probably 1,300 questions. Oh my goodness, no questions?
Well, I mean, Jeff, I think everyone's question is like, okay, how do we make the opposite right? How do we do this right and not screw our children up?
All right, that's where I wanted you. Like, all right, Jeff, we understand that's my goal. I want some understanding. We're going to get to the tips and tools in like 5 minutes, promise. But before the way that we're going to get to the tools is first understanding the metaphor of habits. So using this as a template, everyone go ahead and either fold your hands like you would to pray, or if you're cheer knowledgeable, go ahead and clap like you would in cheer. And just check to see what thumb is closer to your chest. Is it your right thumb when you fold your hands and or clap, or is it your left thumb when you fold your hands and clap? We got it split here. Now, I do this with athletes to help them understand the reality is habits form without much thought. They form by repetition. Without even thinking, I never really thought about like what thumb is closer. But once I heard that, and you may already be doing it, you're trying it with the other, clapping the other way, or folding your hands the other. How does that feel? What is that like to do it the other way? The way that the other side of the parents were trying?
It's odd.
Odd.
Yep.
Is anyone else like, oh, it's so gross, I hate this. Ah! So when I do this with athletes, I mean, the amount of face, like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, this is awful, I hate it. I mean, it's just revulsion. And the reality is that's a habit. You've done something over time, over and over and over again. It gets cemented. Literally, it burns a pathway in your brain. So doing anything else feels wrong, feels unnatural. So what often happens is like the team gets split and they're like, why do you do that? That's so gross. Why do you clap like that? Me, this is disgusting. Like they're usually like some sort of like verbal arguments and dispute on what's the right way to clap. The reality is there's no right way to clap. But then my question to them or to you all is, well, could you change the way you fold your hands or clap? Yeah, you could. Well, how would you do it? Typically, what ends up happening is you pay more attention to it. So for all you parents out there who are like, oh, we want the, how do we help our kid with that prefrontal cortex? I'm talking about it right now. How do you change your kids' habits or help them change their habits? Well, we do that by teaching them or helping them recognize they're clapping with their old habit. What would that look like in the house? Parents, I am not suggesting you ask your kid driving home, how did tumbling go? That is not your role. You may be interested, that's not your role. Triad, that's the coach's role. The coach is going to worry about the back handspring. Yeah, but I pay all this money. Yeah, you pay all that money for them to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. What about that private lesson? What about that class is that map of downtown Chicago? Did you work hard? Oh, you can ask that. That's going to help them be successful in life. Tell me a struggle that you had that you were able to overcome. That's going to be the roadmap of Chicago. Hey, did you throw your back handsprings? The roadmap of downtown Detroit when you're in Chicago. So making sure step number one to changing our habit is recognizing when we're clapping the old way. Second thing is when you clap the old way, really quick, try and change the way you're clapping to remind yourself, oh no, this is the new habit that I want. This is what I want. Then I throw something in there when I talk to athletes. Well, who's going to change their habit first? The athlete who recognizes that they're clapping with the wrong thumb and they scream and yell at themselves and tell themselves how horrible they are, or the athlete who's like, oh, that's just a simple error. Let's do 5 the correct way. It's okay. I made a mistake. No big deal. A or B? What athlete is going to get over, or what athlete's going to change their habit quicker? A or B? So most of us are going to say B. The reality is it depends. I bet most of your kids, A is what's going to help them change their clapping habit. The negative, critical, beat themselves up. I hope all of you not lovingly are nodding your head. I hope you're not nodding your head. But if your kids are like most of the athletes that I've talked to, most of those parents are nodding their head. Oh my gosh, when my kid makes a mistake, they're the hardest ones on themselves. A lot of times I get those parents, my kid gets straight A's and I tell them I don't even care. It doesn't even matter to me. But they're up in their room studying for multiple hours and they get a 98 and they get pissed. Those athletes, when they clap wrong, their habit or their reaction is, oh, I'm terrible, I'm awful. The reality is those athletes who are overly critical, perfectionistic are the ones who are going to experience those mental blocks. And I'm glad they're experiencing a mental block because that way of reacting, that way of responding to yourself may not hurt your confidence in tumbling. There are many athletes who have that makeup and they don't get mental blocks. But every single one of them later on in life struggle with success, end up being really mean and nasty to other people who aren't perfect, like their partners, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, right? Being a good person, and are not happy in that everything has to be perfect situation, roadmap of Chicago. So I am encouraging you right now, helping your kids start that new habit. We're going to talk about even more how, but helping them recognize, hey, is that really what you want? Do you want to scream and yell at yourself? Is this help? No, I hate it. When I'm mean to myself and I'm nasty, I feel bad. And when I feel bad, I do bad. I recognize it. Don't forget their prefrontal cortex. You've got them whenever they recognize this is no longer serving me. This criticalness is no longer serving me. That's when you have your in. And it is not going to be the first time. It's not going to be the second or third or fourth or fifth or 30th time. But you setting the stage for them to continually understand, I'm making a choice that is not aligned with my goals. Every time I overreact, you're getting further and further from your back handspring, your back tuck, etc. So it's about learning how to calm your nervous system and make a different choice.
Jeff, can I ask a question when we go back to asking your kids how tumbling class went or how they did in the
Jump
gym?
right in. Go, Nicole.
So I'm almost embarrassed to say, I mean, maybe other moms in here, but I watch her class.
Okay.
So we're in the gym, I watch her privates. Is there any tips on how, because they look at us while they're in class, right? They look for our reactions. I know my child does. And I've asked her, do you want me to sit in the car? She's like, no, 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 I want you there. But is there a way that we can react that kind of helps with some of these responses that our children have?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So I think I have 3 things to share. First, definition of implicit and explicit. Oftentimes, pressure comes from implicit things like not meant to, but it happens anyways. Asking about tumbling class, it's implicit pressure. You're not like telling them you have to tumble. You just want to know how it is. Like you don't mean any harm, but it's implicitly putting in pressure. Explicit pressure is like that negotiating that we talked about earlier. If you don't tumble, I'm taking away your privates. Why aren't you tumbling? Explicit pressure from a coach. I'm taking you out. You're not going to throw your tumbling. Again, coaches have lots to do. So I'm not saying coaches aren't allowed to take your kids out. In fact, it's probably more helpful if they're not throwing it to not feel that pressure. But that would be explicit pressure. Number 2, to your direct question, I would say, which is number 2, start asking questions. That's also a general strategy that I would suggest for all parents out there. Start asking questions. Oh my gosh, Jeff, but I'm really scared I'm going to ask the wrong ones. Okay, thank you for sharing that. Ask them why you want me there. So Nicole, you're your daughter, I'm going to be you. Let's just role play this. Hey, honey, so you don't want me sitting in the car, but I noticed you look back at me quite a lot in your private, which makes me think that you want to know if I think you're doing okay. Why do you want me in the parent room? Why would you like me to watch your privates? What would she say?
Gosh, I don't even know.
That's good. That's good. Hopefully in your brain, you're like, oh gosh, I want to ask her that question now. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Ask her. Let's say it's because it makes me feel safe. I feel loved by you. These are all good reasons. Keep your butt there. I want you to tell me that I'm doing okay. I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. Those are, you didn't do anything wrong, Mom, if those are the answers, but those are red light, like, no, okay, that's a problem. That is not the map of downtown Chicago when our kids want to know that we think they're doing a good job. We want our kids to in their own. That is a part of hope, learning hope. It's one of our tools that we're going to talk about. Your kids need to have the autonomy to like believe in themselves. And when you're there having to tell them, good job, good job, good job. My husband does this all the time to Haley when she plays soccer. Good job, good job. I'm not saying I'm not going to clap and cheer, but I want when my kid comes done with soccer, hey, did you have fun? They lost like 5-0. 6-0 maybe this weekend. Did you have fun? Yeah, mostly fun. Good. What was the hardest part about today? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that was hard. Empathize. That was hard. Wow. Yeah, I saw that. Do you feel like you stopped trying so hard? No. Her answer, no, I kept playing just as hard because I realized that, next time the games might be equal and I can use a harder team to make me better. These are the things we want our kids to say. Looking at setback as a setup. When I don't throw my tumbling, oh, it just means I have to try something different. So I'm going to be better next time. That was a lot. So let's go back to, I asked my kid, what is it like for me when I'm in the gym watching her? Why does she want me there? Nicole, you asked a more specific question about that. Can you remind me?
Yeah, sure. It was, what can we do? So say her answer is like, I just love you supporting me, not the other where I probably need to sit my butt in the car if it's because
Yep.
she's looking for approval from me. But
Yep.
how can we, what mannerisms, like, do we not do the thumbs up? Do we not do the like, yay? I mean,
Love
what
it.
should we do?
Moms, dads, all of you start writing notes. This is more of the tools. Focus on growth mindset. What do I mean by that? When I say growth mindset, I would first ask a question. I like you supporting me. How can I show you support? You can be there and watch me. That makes me feel supported. Why does me being there help you feel supported? Because I feel like you care when you're there. These are all good things. I need you there so I can tumble, etc. That's not what we're looking for. So we're looking for growth mindset, and we do that by asking lots of questions. Why? How does it make you feel? Things like that. Once we go past that, now we start shifting more into that growth mindset lens. The growth mindset lens being, we focus on how hard they're working, their effort, asking for help, and using tools and strategies. Those are the only things, the roadmaps of Chicago, those are the only things we focus on. Yay, you threw your back handspring. Fixed mindset. So let's deviate really quick. What are you talking about, Jeff? You're saying mindset. Dr. Carol Dweck is a Stanford psychologist who for over 30 years has researched what really separates good from great. What really causes somebody to break through and be successful versus somebody who maybe even had more talent, but they're just not able to break through. Mindset. She has realized that there are two types of mindsets. There is a fixed mindset that focuses on being perfect, doing things right, never making mistakes, being and comparing themselves to other people. When you're thinking, or when anybody is focusing on a fixed mindset, they're essentially saying that their talent, ability, and intelligence is limited. And so they're constantly concerned with how much skill and ability other people think they have, or that they think they have. So when using a fixed mindset, we see mistakes as a sign that we're no longer good or capable. When we're not throwing our back handspring, it means we're a bad tumbler, we're a bad cheerleader, we're a bad teammate. When I don't get an A, it means I'm no longer good at math. And so what happens in this rigid, perfectionistic, critical fixed mindset is that athletes and students, parents, we start to give up. Rather than really burning the habit of good effort, asking for help, working hard, we just decide and we categorize, I'm good at this, so I do these. I'm bad at this, I do that. And when we or our kids put ourselves in those two categories, the fixed mindset limits what you can achieve. So let's break into this growth mindset. The growth mindset is believing your talent, ability, and intelligence can grow and change. Meaning, if I work hard, give a good effort, ask for help, and use strategies, I can become great at anything. Do some people get a head start? Yeah, they do. That's why comparing yourself to somebody who may have gotten a head start is not beneficial. Comparing yourself to yourself is what is beneficial. All of you out there know that is a recipe for happiness, right? We do not feel sustainably happy when we compare ourselves outside, because even if I'm going to compare myself to that person over there, whether it's the purse they have, the body they have, the job they have, the husband they have, when I compare myself to them and I feel like what I have is better, yeah, I may feel good temporarily, but it's only a matter of time before somebody has more. And so that feeling of sadness, disappointment is greater and lasts longer. Let's take this away from us and go back to our kids. When your kids are comparing themselves to other people, all they're doing is literally stealing their own joy. Saying, here's more strategy, saying, don't compare yourself to other people. Not helpful. Ask a question instead. Hey, I notice you're comparing yourself to Jenny. You're two totally different people. Tell me why you're comparing yourself to Jenny. Question number 2. Is it helpful? Oh, write this. Is it helpful when you compare yourself to Jenny? No. Okay, so when you notice you're comparing yourself to Jenny, what could you do instead? Because you said it's not helpful. Oh, I can, and this is where my mental block course, that 6-week course that I'm offering through Vidzing, is helpful. I provide athletes with literally a basket of ways to start changing those thoughts when they realize those habits are different. So parents, you're like, okay, great, Jeff. So what do I do? How can I do this? When your kid is comparing themselves to other people in school, or I got the highest grade in class, rather than, oh, that's so great, honey, flip it to a growth mindset. Flip it to, wow, you must have worked really hard for that. Tell me all about the hurdles you overcame. Tell me about the amount of time you put into that project. Oh, it sounds like you really loved it. I'm so proud of you. You change. Fixed mindset is focusing on results, straight A's or A's, getting a tumbling skill, getting first. Change your focus from those reward center things, fixed mindset, to the process of things, effort, hard work, dedication, perseverance. Nicole, I realize that was a lot more than you were probably asking for that question, but mindset, I just felt like mindset was the right time in there. Does mindset as a strategy for your specific situation feel helpful?
Yes, that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to get into some more strategies in our last 18 minutes, but I want to first just dive in one last time to our PowerPoint. And it is that 4th thing that I mentioned earlier for the science behind mental blocks. Who is most susceptible? So the athlete who is perfectionistic, who doesn't want to see any mistakes, who wants A's, those athletes are super susceptible to mental blocks. Those athletes who are really hard on themselves, who are critical of themselves, who feel like it's never good enough, and even when it's really good, they still find a mistake. Those athletes are burning that habit in their brain that makes them more susceptible to a mental block. And finally, that 3rd temperament, those athletes who worry. And parents, you know, if this is your kid, the child who's concerned about food, who's really worried about like, oh, I don't want that. I can't, they get very picky. It's like things have to be very confined for me to feel safe. I worry. I have what ifs all the time. An athlete that I had just last season, She was somebody who one time her mom ended up putting spaghetti sauce into the pasta that had fuzz on it, like around the top. The athlete didn't even try it. The mom found the jar with the fuzz before she served it. The kid didn't even have any. No one in the family had any. And what ended up happening? This kid not just wouldn't eat spaghetti, she actually had like physical, like anytime she smelled, negative emotional memories getting stamped in her amygdala, actually was convulsing when she'd smell pasta sauce. This is an athlete who has lots of worries. When grandpa got sick, is grandpa going to die? And they perseverate. Oh my gosh, I thought this bad thing about my coach. Am I a bad person? And they just ruminate on it. To throw back to some of the information we talked about, yeah, that worry is all in the cortex of the athlete. And that's what we're trying to help stop or slow down. So parents, every day that we find a way to be empathetic and supportive, wow, sounds like you're really worried. Sounds like you're really concerned. That's got to be really hard. I love you so much. You have to validate your kids' feelings first. Then, when the time is right, we can move on and start using that any of those situations to start making it teachable moments, to start helping our kids be able to have those skills for when they turn 18 and they leave home, that they're on the right track to be happy, successful in life and be a good person. So the first thing that we really want to focus on is building hopefulness in our athletes. Okay, Jeff, you're getting crazy. What do you mean hopefulness? Essentially what I mean is that we want to remember that hope is learned. Hope is something that we can develop in our kids. So if your kids are feeling hopeless, we can teach them how to hope. The way to do that, well, most children, they learn hope from having good boundaries, strong relationships, and being consistent and having support of hopelessness from parents. So when we are flipping our lids, when our kids are upset and we're yelling at them, we're not creating hope. We're not holding a space for them to contain their emotions. Those are not good, strong boundaries. So the first tool is we have to take care of ourselves first. For all you moms out there, our society puts so much burden on you all. Most moms that I know, just society speaking, there's a pressure that you come last. You've got to be able to keep your lid on when dealing with your child's in these situations. So taking care of yourself first. If you need to vent because you're having big emotions, hey, guess what? Jeff Benson, come to me, mindbodychair@gmail.com. Vent to me. Let's talk about it. Let me know. Like, put it out there. But when you get to your kids and they need your hope and support, you're going to give it to them. Because hope comes from parents. It's learned from you. All right, so let's do the recipe of hope. First, your kids setting realistic goals. When I say realistic goals, I'm talking about actual goal setting, which means I want to get my back handspring. Yeah, getting it tomorrow if you've been blocking for 3 years, not realistic. Taking Jeff's 6-week course and you've been blocking for 2 years, it's not realistic to expect that you're going to be throwing your tumbling at the end of that course. So parents, you being able to understand what is realistic and helping your kid frame that is essential. So for any of you parents out there whose kids are going through the 6-week course, my goal is not for your kid to tumble again. My goal is for your child to be able to emotionally handle not tumbling and be able to control that reaction and use strategies. Why is my goal not to get your child to tumble again? I work with kids and parents and coaches because I want your kids to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. And I know framing a mental block as an opportunity. Every time a kid is struggling and teaching them strategies and tools and learning how to emotionally regulate, that is the answer to helping your kid reach those three things. Tumbling bagat is not going to do it. So that 6-week course is about helping them learn how to emotionally regulate and make it more likely for them to tumble, to get their amygdala to trust them again, and store more positive emotional memories. The second thing we can do to help develop hope, it's kind of the recipe, is we can figure out ourselves how to achieve them. So we can figure out, okay, this is the path. It's about that growth mindset Jeff's talking about. It's about being empathetic and asking questions. It's not about explicit pressure, implicit pressure. It's really about being there and asking questions. When we as parents can stay flexible and help them develop alternative pathways. Oh, okay, you try to do that. That stinks. What could you do next time? That is going to be the second thing to help them develop hope and overcome a mental block. Along with that, it's also helping them learn to tolerate the disappointment and trying that new path. The third thing, and parents, this is going to be the hardest. I know that you thought the first two were hard. Here's number 3. You have to allow your child to develop agency, which means the ability to come to terms with things themselves, to develop their own independence, which will help develop confidence and that belief in themselves that they can do it. You must start. I'm not saying your kid's 8 and you need to like throw them off a ledge and like, you have agency tonight. No, it's about framing it and giving them small little challenges. Yeah, I literally challenge my child every single day. I find things, I talk about things, and I do it empathetically. I try and read the room because every day is a little bit different, but that is key to helping them overcome any roadblock in life, to being able to tolerate discomfort. So many parents I know love their kids so much. It's kind of our generation. We try and protect our kids from being in pain because it causes us pain. We're actually hurting our kids when we do that. The intention is love. The intention of my kid being an only child with 3 parents, like she's got like anything she needs. And so there's a big discussion, like she's in 8th grade, she should have an iPhone. No. Everyone else has iPhones. Don't care. No. And it's not just because I think in terms of brain development, in terms of I'm not going to do something because someone else is doing it. My kid's not getting an iPhone because my kid needs to learn discomfort. My kid needs to learn other ways to get in contact with us. That is going to help set up, and that's just me. Like I'm not everybody out there do this. That's the thing that one of the things I can do to help develop that pathway in the brain of resilience. Speaking of, how do we build resilience in our kids? Well, building resilience is necessary to avoid hopelessness and despair. So personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness are the 3 Ps from Martin Siegelman, who talks about how to develop resilience. All right, parents, we're nearing our end of our time. Who else or what else can I do or share? Realizing that there's no way in 90 minutes am I going to be able to give you like, these are the ways that your kid's going to unblock. This is the start. All my goal was for tonight is for you to have more understanding and get a jumping off or starting off point on what are the next steps. Really quick. Every parent that emails me at mindbodycheer@gmail.com, if that mindset stuff sounds good to you, I have a whole PDF that literally talks about I think it's like 3 pages, all the different things in different situations you can say and do to your child to help develop that growth mindset, which will help with that perfectionism, can help with the worry, and can help with those kids who are really, really critical of themselves. So don't forget, mindbodycheer@gmail.com. Send me an email so I can send you the PDF. But outside of that, what else can I offer you all or provide for you all tonight?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
My situation, I guess when we were talking about, I think it was Nicole was talking about her daughter wanting her to sit and watch. My daughter's been going through a mental block for, it's actually a year, November of last year. And she was kind of like the first example you used, where she had a lot of different skills, and just over time now she's pretty much lost all of them. She can do a back walkover, but it's hard some days. Even to, to that, down to that extreme, from, running a lot of higher level tumbling.
Yep.
She no longer wants me to sit in and watch practices or classes or private.
Pressure. Yep.
And so I do sit in the car, but now we're to the point where I don't know if I should ask her, how was practice? Sometimes it's my fault, I'll ask her, and then I don't think it's the response. I think I'm wanting to hear where she says, I did it. I did everything. Yeah. I got it back. And she says, and she comes to the car and she's excited. I had a great private, or I had a great tumbling class. And I'll say, well, what did you do? And she said, well, I did my back handspring with this. And I'll say, well, did you do it by yourself? No, I did it with the spot on the trampoline. And so then I think my reaction, it's not what I want to hear. So I'm working on how to best respond. So then that way it doesn't, because then what happens is she will shut down, where she was on a high thinking I did a really good job today. And then she gets in the car with me, and then she sees my reaction, and then she's like, oh, I disappointed my mom. And now she's unhappy with herself.
So it's kind of the way that my brain is developed. I think that's the appropriate way of saying it. Immediately, my brain and my heart really goes to, oh, Nicole, I understand that as a parent. And I bet all these other moms and dads are like, yeah, I pay all this money for a private lesson. I understand how much struggle she goes through. I just want her to be free from this. I just want it to be over. So every time she comes to the car and she's excited, I'm set. I am like, yes, this is the day. And then when I hear it wasn't that, I'm disappointed. I'm upset. And it's not just inside for you, it's for her. Like, I'm upset for her. I want more for her.
Right.
But this is where I want to go. And you tell me, be honest, Nicole. Do you want your kid happy, successful in life, or be a good person? Are those like, yep, Jeff, you said it. Those are totally, that's where I navigate my life. That's what I want for my kid.
For sure. And this is Jennifer talking, not Nicole.
Oh, Jennifer, I'm sorry. Thank you, Jennifer. I saw Nicole's little green thing on my computer was lit up. I appreciate that. So Jennifer, if those are the 3 things, tell me then, when your reaction is disappointment, how that reaction aligns with those 3 goals.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And so that's,
Great.
And it's recognizing now, seeing her reaction, it's me recognizing that and coming up with a better response when she gets in the car excited.
Yeah. So here we go. Let's reinforce some of the topics we talked about today. Your habit, even though you recognize with a fully formed prefrontal cortex, like you recognize, okay, when I'm disappointed, this is not what I want. It's not aligned with my goals. They're incongruent. Jennifer, you're still going to react and feel disappointed for a long time because it's a habit. If I told you to like cross your fingers, okay, and one day, Jennifer, you got to do it in another way, it's not going to happen. So just like that, you're not going to change the way you react to or feel to your kid in the car. But this is the benefit of a fully formed prefrontal cortex. If we constantly, let's use that litmus. How do we change the way we clap? One, recognize when you're not clapping the new way. Ooh, I just reacted disappointed. Oh, honey, I messed up. And Jennifer, this could be like hours later. I don't care. Bring it up anyway.
Okay.
Oh, I realized you were super excited and I was disappointed. And I was disappointed not because I think you're bad or you don't work hard. I was disappointed because I want you out of pain. But I also realized that you weren't even in pain. You were actually really excited. Me being upset says everything about me and nothing about you. You did nothing wrong. That's the key thing. You did nothing wrong. In fact, high five. This is my stuff. This is my mess. This is my perfectionism, or this is, name it whatever you want.
Sure.
This is my fault. This is my stuff. That's what I call it in my family. That's my stuff. It's my baggage. It's not yours. I put it on you. I apologize. I'm going to try and be better next time. And then with that prefrontal cortex, you can then have the conversation of like, why were you excited? What was it exciting about? Oh, you moved 2 steps forward. Like you weren't doing it with a light spot on the trampoline yesterday. If she's taking my course, she's going to learn like that is her reaction is what I would want. She is moving forward. She is doing better. She did progress. Because the reality is, if we're only looking at our end goal, throwing our back handspring, we're going to spend all this time being unhappy. Oh, I can't be happy until I throw a back handspring on the floor by myself. Think of how many negative emotional memories are being stored if that's my frame of reference. So it's this. We want to move just to there, just little bits. Does that make sense, Jennifer?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Who else can I help and support?
Hey, Jeff, this is Nicole.
Cole, I
So-
appreciate you naming yourself so I didn't make a
Sure.
mistake. Thank you.
So, hopefully, one day all of our athletes will get their skills back. That's the goal, right? And
It is.
so when that day happens, how do we not like screw it up because we're so excited and then start reverting back into our old habits because we're like, oh, we got here. Like, woohoo,
So number one, rather than your goal is for your daughter to get your tumbling back, you said like, that's our ultimate goal, right? For our kid to get tumbling back. Nope.
Oh, see, I've already failed your class.
You didn't fail. You did not fail. The fact that you even showed up to hear this and you haven't clicked off after an hour and a half, you haven't failed. You actually passed with flying colors. It's not my expectation that someone hears me for 90 minutes and they're like, I'm all better because you told me you're all better. You're a liar. Just like there are many times, to give an example to this, Nicole, there are many times where I'll see an athlete one-on-one in our private sessions and they get their tumbling back. Or I get a message that like throughout the week, oh my God, she's throwing all her tumbling. And you all are going to get unfiltered Jeff. And all I can think of is, oh, baby Jesus, hold down the fort. This is going to get bad. Oh, it's going to be bad. Not that they got their tumbling back is bad. They got their tumbling back because what we're doing is working. But there's an expectation now set that I have to always do it or I'm over it. Don't think of it as a mental block anymore. Think of it as fear or think of it as a hurdle. When your kid has a hurdle, what do you want them to do? Find strategies to overcome the hurdle, to be able to stay calm and not hate themselves when there's a hurdle in front of them, not feel like they're a bad person because a hurdle is there. So your question is, oh, if my kid gets their tumbling back, how do I not cause them to go back or cycle back into a mental block? One, you're not that special. You aren't the dictator of whether it is or is not. It's usually a multitude of factors which cause an athlete reverting. I actually see progress and then knowing they're going to have to go back in a mental block again. It's just a part of healing. If anybody knows anything about addiction or addiction models, relapse is normal. I'm not saying or suggesting that a mental block is the same as an addiction, but I am saying there is any kind of habit cycle is the same. There's a period of where you're seeing improvements, but there will be that reverting. There will be that time where the kid is probably going to lose their tumbling again. So I'm not hopeful, right? How do we build hope, Jeff? It's not, oh, it doesn't matter, you're going to lose it anyway. Like, that's not developing hope. You're celebrating, not that they threw it, not even that. How hard you've worked, how resilient you've been, how much time and effort you're putting into the privates, how you focused on little baby steps. So like Jennifer was talking about, she gets to go, do you remember when you were so excited when you were on the tumble track and you were able to throw it? Yes, you did. You celebrated all of those small wins, and that's how you got to where you are today. Think of a template or blueprint. That blueprint, if you put that blueprint up to any hurdle, that kid is going to learn how to overcome any setback in life. Anything, Nicole. That's what I'm going for. Yeah, tumbling back handspring. Yay. Nicole, I want your kid to be happy, successful in life, and be a good person. So I don't care if they cycle back into their mental block. Jeff, but I feel like you're not empathizing, like how much it like pulls at me and her, and she gets upset. And good. Life is teaching you. We're going to need to work on not throwing the tumbling again, but making it less emotional. Keeping our big brain on, keeping our prefrontal cortex attached when we don't get what we want, and then thinking of strategies. Because here's the good news. If an athlete gets over a mental block and cycles back in, however long they were working to get out of it, that is how much positive memories, if they were doing it positively, growth mindset, you have that much habit of that new way of clapping. Let's say it was 2 months, going back to my example earlier with an athlete that I worked with. So yeah, after 2 months, she cycled back in, but we worked together for 2 months, and it was 4 months of positive emotional memories. So it was way faster, as the like dentist metaphor I gave. That checkup was way faster the next time. It literally was like a month of us working together. And then she was out of a mental block for however long. Yeah, she went back in, but it was even shorter. And then even shorter. To where now the mental block, she actually wrote her college essay on how her mental block is the best thing that's ever happened to her in her life. So anytime she's at nationals and she feels fear in the warm-up room, she knows what to do. So you better believe when she is getting ready to run for student government, she knows what to do. When she didn't get it, she wasn't beside herself as a junior when that happened. So she set up a campaign. What am I going to do senior year? What can I do different? And yeah, she became president of her class for next year because she learned from setbacks. That was a lot. Nicole, does that make sense? If you don't feel comfortable sharing or asking questions, no worries at all. Email me, please, mindbodycheer@gmail.com. Send me those questions. If this session was helpful for any of you, if you wouldn't mind like tagging me on social media, letting your parent friends know, I am trying everything I can to start helping support parents like yourselves who are struggling on how to navigate the sport world, how to navigate setbacks. If you think this could help somebody else, let them know. That's all I want. Help as many people as I can. Thank you all so much for your time.